Ahead and call the Senate to order. Members, please take your seats. Sergeant at Arms, please secure the chamber doors. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. All right, with 41 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is yet again back in session on our own here. Single cameral, unicameral work tonight. Let's see, we do have we have guests. Who is? All right, Senators, if we could get everyone's attention, please. We have some guests joining us in the chamber here. If we could recognize the senator from District 33.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, we have here with us this evening the Broadneck High School Unified Bocce Team. The Bruin Rollers, led by Coach Peacock, delivered their best performance of the season at just the right time.
Senators, if you could just, excuse me. Senators, please. Senator may proceed.
Thank you. Delivered their best performance of the season at just the right time and blew away the competition on its way to the school's 5th official state championship. The supportive and inclusive culture that existed defined the program and led them to great success. Each member on the 2023 Broadneck High School Unified State Championship team truly exemplified the meaning of teamwork, commitment, and camaraderie. The coaches are truly thankful for the support of the families and are honored to be part of this unified team. Please put your hands together for the 2023 Bocce State Champions, and I would ask that the resolution be read in full.
The clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all that the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Broadneck High School Unified Bocce Team in recognition of winning the 2023 state championship, resulting from hard work and the supportive and inclusive culture that defines the team. Congratulations. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 8th day of March, 2024.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. To the young champion and scholars at Broadneck High School Unified Bocce Team, congratulations on winning the 2023 state championship and for all of your great work. Well done. Congratulations. Thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you coming, spending some time with us on the floor. Thanks to the parents as well. Suppose there may be a few parents up there. Thank you for your great work. Thank you. Job well done. Things are clearly going in the right direction here at Broadneck. All right.
Yep.
Back to the senator from the 33rd District.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I know it's a busy day, but I really appreciate the body's indulgence to show this recognition to another wonderful team from Broadneck High School, led by Coach Perota and her assistant, Coach Hosey. The 2023 Bruins tennis team brought home our school's first tennis state championship. The team dominated their way through the regular season. That was highlighted by a victory over rival Severna Park, also in my district, for the first time in almost 2 decades. Their dominance continued into the postseason as they brought home the county and region championships. Many Bruins delivered brilliant performances in the state tournament, highlighted by the state runner-up finish for our mixed doubles team, Alicia Aponte and Charlie Ernst, as well as the individual championship performance that Olivia Melanchuk achieved. She is Broadneck's first individual tennis state champion. So I'd ask that the resolution be read in full.
Clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be hereby known to all that the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Broadneck High School tennis team in recognition of winning the 2023 4A tennis state championship. We applaud your outstanding season and wish you many more. Congratulations. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 18th day of March, 2024.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. To the men and women of the Broadneck High School tennis team, congratulations on your 2023 4A Tennis State Championship. We are greatly appreciative of your work and hope you're excelling on the court and in the classroom at the same time. Congratulations. Well done. All right, we had another one. Okay, we'll come back to it later. That works. All right, any other introductions? Any other introductions? Nothing? No? Going to jump right in today for the third time? All right. So we consider the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. We still have some House bills. First reading House bills. This is Report 23. Clerk will read the bills.
House Bill 24, Delegate Boyce, Department of the Environment, Environmental Justice, Evaluation of Environmental Permit Applications, Education, Energy, and the Environment.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. We will be referring them to their appropriate standing committees. Onwards to calendar 20, message number 24. Clerk will read the message.
House Bill 364, Prince George's County Delegation, Prince George's County Stop Sign Monitoring Systems Authorization.
Majority Leader moves
PG.
so be considered reading the bills. They will be referred to their standing committees. Message number 25. Clerk will read the message.
House Bill 148, Delegate Ebersol, Department of Transportation, Human Trafficking Awareness
Majority Leader
Training.
moves so be considered the reading of the bills. We will refer them to their appropriate standing committees. And message 26.
House Bill 687, Charles County Delegation, Charles County Governing Bodies of Common Ownership Communities, Member Training, Judicial Proceedings.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. We will refer them to their appropriate standing committees. All right, let's go ahead and do the third reading calendar while we have everyone here. If we could do a quorum call.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. Tomorrow.
Check. So much be considered.
That's funny. Yeah. Oh, testing. Oh, there we go. That was quick. All right, let's double check. Can we hear? Streaming. Looks like everything's still working. All right. Let's go ahead and assume we are good to go. If anybody, if any of the staff members are watching or DLS members, if they cannot hear us, they could send up a message. That would be helpful. But I think we should be set. Let's go to our third reading calendar. Actually, since we've had this issue, let's go to the second reader, the special order calendar number 42, just in case we have another mic issue. This is special order calendar number 62. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 537, Senator Feldman, Cannabis, Licensee Locations Restrictions. Bill is on second reading and open to amendment.
All right. The bill is on second reading. Subject to amendment. Senator from the 25th District has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. All right, just give us one moment to get it up here. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the amendments come around to you, I'll just kind of give you all a little background to why these amendments are so important. This bill, under its current posture, puts a situation where you look at the communities and a lot of the inner beltway neighborhoods within Prince George's County, and you look at communities like Baltimore City, you look at communities where there's a high population of African Americans, you see a liquor store on every single corner. You see new tobacco shops, as we've just debated tobacco shops, you see tobacco shops on every single corner in a lot of our communities. And it would be robbery if we did not address this piece of legislation to make sure that on our watch, we did not allow for the same thing to happen with cannabis as we move forward with this brand new industry. There are 300 new licenses that we approved to bring out for cannabis across the state of Maryland. And with that, within this next year, we'll see a couple of new licenses come to every single jurisdiction. And the bill, in its initial posture, literally took all of the authority away from our county councils to address this issue firsthand, to make sure that we were protecting our communities to not have an overproliferation of these cannabis shops in our neighborhoods, to be in the same posture as these liquor stores, in the same posture as these new tobacco stores. So we came with the fight and with an amendment, and we've been able to come to a resolution with, I believe, everyone. And so I think this will be accepted as a friendly amendment, which I hope so. And so amendment number 1, it changes the title. It strikes license, location, restrictions, and substitutes license, locations, restrictions, and complaints. And this is for the good senator for Baltimore who produced the bill. This is incorporating his bill into this particular amendment so that it addresses the issues with complaints in terms of these cannabis shops within our communities and allow our communities to truly have a voice at the table when they see a problem with these new businesses. Amendment number 2, on page 3 of the bill in line 19, it strikes 500 feet and substitutes 1/2 mile, and in line 25 substitutes 1,000 feet for 1/2 mile. In line 6 of the amendment, it also strikes 2,000 feet and substitutes 1/2 mile. What we have done and what we have taken into consideration as a Prince George's delegation, we have taken into consideration the businesses that are already there. Under the medical licensing, we have at least 9 operational businesses in Prince George's County right now. And so what we have done is grandfathered the businesses that have already invested their dollars and have set themselves up in our community, and that becomes the centralized location where we're making sure half a mile distance from these particular locations that's already in place, and any other location that comes after that. And an amendment, stand by 1 second. As stated earlier, the additional amendment that we added in for the senator from Baltimore City to address his bill as well, we brought that in, which a complaint against a licensee may be filed with the administration by at least 10 individuals who are residents, commercial tenants, who are not holders of or applicants for a license, or real estate owners, and located within 1,000 feet of the licensed premises. A complaint against a licensee shall be on the basis of a violation of this title, a violation of civil or criminal law, conduct by a licensee that creates or maintains conditions that allows other individuals to act in a manner that disturbs the public peace, including obstruction of a public right-of-way by unruly crowds, assault, battery, or other disorderly conduct that disturbs public peace, vandalism, or loitering, or any other violation established by the administration by regulations, and be signed under oath, except as provided under paragraph 2 of this subsection. A complaint against a licensee is filed at least 30 days before the license expires. The administration may not approve the renewal of the license without holding a hearing. Number 2, the administration may approve a license renewal without a hearing if the administration finds that the basis of the complaint filed against the license lacks substance. And to hear and make a determination on a complaint filed against a licensee, the administration may consider only issues arising out of specific complaints about the operation of the licensed premises and the performance of the license holder for the 4-year period immediately preceding the date of the renewal applications, and may not consider zoning issues. The administration may adopt regulations to implement the section. Mr. President, I ask that we accept these amendments, 1, because it's the right thing to do, but 2, this is a way for us to make sure that we make an impact on today. We can't talk about what folks did 20, 30 years ago, where they've over-proliferated our communities with liquor stores and tobacco shops. This is about today, making sure that we protect the citizens of Prince George's County, the state of Maryland, and all of our communities. But this is about protecting all of us, Mr. President, and making sure our communities are in a better posture when we leave than when we came. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, senators, move the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. There is at least one issue with this amendment that we haven't really had time to investigate, so I'd like to special order until tomorrow.
All right, any objections? Why don't we do Wednesday? Are there any issues
Mr.
we can do
President, can we
Wednesday?
special order until Wednesday?
That gives us some time. All right, any objections? Any objections? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered at the appropriate time on Wednesday.
Mr. President,
Yes, Senator
I want to
from.
ask the maker of the amendment.
Oh, Senator, we're gonna hold up. The bill's not before us because we're gonna hold it till Wednesday.
We'll hold it till Wednesday. Thank you.
Uh huh.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. All right, let's go to the third reading calendar, number 77. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 11, Senator Carter, Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services and Maryland Judicial Information Technology partial expungement.
Senate Bill 11 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 11 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 74, Senator Ellis, State Designations, State Fruit, American Persimmon.
Senate Bill 74 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from District 7 on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I get up. I appreciate what the senator is trying to do with this bill. I just don't see it as a Maryland fruit. Even though it's grown in Maryland, it's not something we know. I actually spent this weekend at lacrosse games and ice hockey practice asking parents, hey, you ever heard of persimmon? And everybody's like, no. Some people thought it was a tea. Some people thought it was a fragrance, but it just wasn't Maryland to them. And I say that because, I've looked over the weekend, when you think of what is Maryland, what's our state flower? Black-eyed Susan. It's iconic. You see the Preakness, the winter's going to be draped in the Black-eyed Susans. Several years ago, we passed the Smith Island cake. We've done Chesapeake Bay Retrievers, our state dog. Our state crustaceans, the blue crab. Those are iconically Maryland things that you think of. This, I just don't think we're there. I went to the grocery store, asked my wife, I said, do you see any? We even looked in the fruit section, couldn't find any. I just don't think it's Maryland. It gets to this level as being designated as a state fruit, so I'll be opposing it, Mr. President.
All right. Any further discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County.
Yes, I do have a question for the senator from the 7th District. Can you name a Maryland fruit?
Well, there's a couple crab apples are one.
Is that strictly Maryland? Well, paw, that's fine.
I was getting ready to say the paw's one.
But I don't know have you ever eaten a paw?
Actually, yes. When I was in 4-H, at 4-H camp out in Western Maryland.
But I have never eaten a paw, but I've eaten a persimmon. So I do know that. So maybe we should do paws and persimmons.
Well, you know what? We could special order this
All
and
right.
look at it.
So
I mean,
anyway,
I understand.
I'm not trying to be funny. I just want to know that I don't know that there are any other. I mean, if you said a crab apple, I wouldn't be real excited about that either. But there's fruit that I really like that I would rather have. But a persimmon is grown here, and it is from the senator from the Southern Maryland that nobody goes to. But growing up, no, I didn't mean that. Okay. This is a serious thing for him. But I'm very serious about this, that people have never seen them. So maybe sometime in the next week or so you can bring us some persimmons. Okay? But growing up, I have eaten a persimmon, and it was a wild tree. And I think maybe it has a lot of, you'll be able to do conventions and parties and everything, just like the pawpaws, where they bring in people and you'll have festivals and everything. And I think that's really a good thing. So
Excellent.
Thank you. And I didn't mean to be smart or anything.
No. Understood.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
on
you.
On the bill, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Does anyone explain his vote?
I'll explain my vote.
Yes. Recognizing the senator from District 1. 2 minutes to
So
explain
I struggle with myself of being a yes or a no on this bill for the simple fact that unfortunately in Garrett County we do not have any persimmon trees that grow. But in the spirit of good faith, I'm going to cast a green vote regardless of it not being in Garrett County.
All right. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 36 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 74 have received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 117, Senator Bailey, Health Newborn Screening Program Implementation of Testing. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 117 is on third reading for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 117 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 190, Senator Muse, Law Enforcement Wellness Checks Requirements, Gabriel's Law.
Senate Bill 190 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 190 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 473, the President, Economic Development, Entrepreneurial Innovation Programs Establishment, Pavel Lepere, Legacy of Innovation Act, 2024.
Senate Bill 473 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 473, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 905, Senator Kelly, Public Safety Extreme Risk Protective Orders Review of Court Records.
Senate Bill 905 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 905, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1071, Senator McKay, Hospitals, Opioid Overdose, and Opioid-Related Emergency Medical Conditions Treatments.
Senate Bill 1071 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1071, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1076, Senator Quarterman, Sales and Use Tax, Electricity to Charge Electric Vehicles Transportation Trust Fund.
Senate Bill 1076 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1076, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1098, Senator Smith, Correctional Services Diminution Credit, Sexual Offenses.
Senate Bill 1098 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1098, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1107, Senator M. Washington, Housing and Community Development Study on the Establishment of Homeless Shelter License Program.
Senate Bill 1107 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1107, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Mr. President? Mr. President?
Yes, recognize the senator from District 1.
I'd like to record a vote change, please.
Vote change. If the page could please collect the senators'
On Senate
vote
Bill
changes.
11, I'd like to be recorded in the green, please.
11 in the green.
Yes, please.
All right. If we could make sure we get the form. Thank you. All right, senators, before we... All right, senators, before we do our next third reading calendar, we have some guests who have joined us. And let's recognize the senator from District 26.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you for letting me do this. Standing in front of us now is one who I believe thoroughly will be the next Maya Angelou or anyone else in that category. I am privileged to have her here, a thriving youth from Prince George's County, Ms. Sanaya Pearson. She is the 2024 Prince George's County Youth Poet Laureate, awarded by the Prince George's County Arts and Humanities Council. She attends Central High School, class of 2026. She is an international baccalaureate student, an overall talented, bright young lady who I am honored to have her here and before us. I listened to her speech at an event that I gave, and she really took me back in time, and I thought I was actually sitting in the presence of Maya Angelou, hearing her as she spoke. She is just the brightest, and I'm going to ask our Prince George's Senate delegation if you would come forward as well and take the picture with us. Would you please welcome her tonight to our session? I have a resolution to be read.
The clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all that the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Sanaya Pearson in recognition of being named the 2024 Prince George's County Youth Poet Laureate for her creativity and community activism. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 18th day of March, 2024.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? To make sure we get everybody here who's up front. It appears we have. The clerk will take the call. To Ms. Sanaya Pearson, the Senate of Maryland unanimously celebrates your 2024 Prince George's County Youth Poet Laureate Award and your incredible creativity and community activism. Congratulations. And would like to see it, senators, if we may, this is a little bit unplanned, so I don't want to, if it's too much pressure, but Ms. Pearson, if we wanted to see if she had a poem that she had by heart, that's a lot of pressure, so I don't want to, would you be interested in doing a poem? Okay, please, let's come on up. All right, so we're going to be a very willing and open audience. This is totally unscripted. This is a huge, I can only imagine the nerves. I get nervous up here. I'm sure you were going to crush it. So without further ado, the mic is yours.
You can see me, but can you hear me? Can you feel the history that drags my roots? The life that tugs at my branches to wave back at you, to protect you, watch over you, to fill your lungs, to breathe in what I see, the very same air once shared by those who long to taste the freedom sitting on your tongue, that rested silently so you could speak, that painfully crawled so you could walk, the trees, us that were cut so you could stand and walk over the same land I've wandered before. Unsung cries for a voice now yours, ringing in your ear but stilling itself beneath your lips, complaining of a dry throat, jumbled words, and a mouth with a slow leak. So there you sit, with a thirst for change, but doing nothing as cotton clogs your tongue. But why? Why do you let it? Because I still wear chains. I say, I still carry baggage full of fluffed up hoops, some dragging an inferiority complex, but I guess I got that from you. From them, the cool iron that still chinks, in the loops of metal that still twists, that still rust. Free throws in a game of tug of war. I'll pray not to lose. I'll pray not to lose my mind. My mind, they feed it, I eat it, consumed. I eat what they tell me to think, to hear, to listen to the media, to the reading. No, not that kind of read, see. In our youth, the issue lies still here. So don't be afraid to speak out, to share your truth, our truth, these roots too. See my branches waving softly and wave back. Thank you.
That was phenomenal. Did you notice that the mic went out as well? Oh, no, it's great. It was amazing. You didn't even That was quite impressive. Quite impressive. The future is bright. The future is bright. Thank you so much. And I don't know if senators realized that the mic went out midway through as we've been having our mic challenges and didn't even phase. Pretty incredible. Senator from the 26th district may want to. Yes, Senator.
If we would, Mr. President, I would like to generalize those remarks.
Most certainly, and we will ask if we could follow up with a written copy of that wonderful rendition. It was phenomenal. So thank you very much for joining us. All right, back to work. We are on to calendar 78.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just a quick question for those that might be following along from home. On the agenda, it says the distribution date is March 18th, 2024, but then it says third reading date, March 19th, 2024, which is tomorrow. So on the agenda, at the top of the page, on both the floor system.
I have it as distribution date March 18th, third reading March 18th.
No, it's not what we have. Does anybody else have it now?
I think
I still have
on
March
the floor
19th.
system, but the written document from the Secretary's office has it as distribution date March 18th.
That's what I see, March 18th distribution date, but it says third reader date, March 19th.
We have it as March 18th on this one. I mean, we can
On that piece of paper?
on the Secretary's document and inside the system.
I was just going off the floor system, and I wasn't sure if we were moving these bills to tomorrow in some special order. I wasn't aware of, which is fine if you'd like to do that, but.
No, fair enough. No, I think, and at the end of the day, I mean, operatively, it's still
Just
in order.
In case people were watching, because we
Understood.
understand legislative dates can go backwards, and, we can catch up with those, so I just
Right.
wanted to make sure we were aware. Okay, thank
Most
you very
certainly.
much.
No, understood. And yes, it is correct in the paper document. So I think. All right. Are we on? Let's see. The calendar 78. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 85, Senator M. Washington. Corporations and Associations Limited Worker Cooperative Associations Authorization, Maryland Limited Cooperative Association Act.
All right. Senate Bill 85 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 85 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 92, Senator Brooks, Places of Public Accommodation, Motion Picture Houses, Captioning.
Senate Bill 92 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 92 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 123, Senator Carter, Criminal Procedure Petition to Reduce Sentence.
Senate Bill 123 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 123 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 538, Senator Waldstreicher, Civil Actions, Non-Economic Damages, Personal Injury, and Wrongful Death.
Senate Bill 538 is on third reading for final passage, recognizing Senator from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have some questions for the floor leader, if he'll yield.
Will the floor leader yield? Appears so. Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. So tell me, please, I'm not an attorney, so I don't really understand. So what are non-economic damages?
Yeah, so non-economic damages are any damages that you can't measure separate from wages and like lost wages or specific damage that happens as part of the accident.
So what's the limit now for non-economic damage?
I'm sorry, the current cap is $950,000.
And this would take the cap to?
$1.75 million. And
so, you know, I always have some interest in what will this cost insurance for all of us that pay insurance. So what will this do to our insurance rates, both, you know, for automobile insurance, but for medical malpractice? You're almost doubling the cap. So what will that do to our insurance rates?
So a couple things. First of all, this bill doesn't apply to medical malpractice.
Okay.
The medical malpractice cap is separate and remains at its current level. And so this won't impact medical malpractice insurance whatsoever. We did have a hearing on the bill, and none of the auto insurers or the other individual insurers came in to testify against the bill. Very few claims rise to this level. These are, what we did have testimony is there was an individual who was substantially harmed when a truck driver who was on duty was using cocaine and was high on cocaine and struck this young man. And because he's a child, he doesn't have income. And so non-economic damages are the only damages that family will receive because he doesn't have any income as someone because he wasn't working. It's the same reason that there was testimony during the bill that the cap discriminates against African Americans and against women. So African American wages tend to be lower than wages for other folks. And so the economic damages are lower for African American victims. This helps provide equity to African American victims. Same is true of women. So women tend to make, it was Women's History Month, or it is Women's History Month. And as we know, I think it was Equal Pay Day recently. Women make 86 cents on the dollar. And so when women have lower wages than men, they recover less on economic damages. Raising the cap on non-economic damages allows them to recover equitably in our court system.
Thank you. What was the vote in the committee? 7-4.
So it looks like we have the wrong folder here. We are going to get this. 7-4 was the committee.
Can you tell me who spoke in opposition or who sent testimony in opposition?
Sure, we can grab that for you in 1 second here. The American Property Casualty Association was in opposition. And the American Tort Reform Association.
And the Maryland Motor Truck. And the Maryland Chamber of Commerce.
That sounds accurate.
And more.
Yeah, so I was just describing who testified orally against the bill, but there was written testimony against the bill.
And who was in favor of the bill?
So the Maryland Association for Justice testified in favor of the bill.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader.
Thank you.
All right, recognizing the senator from the 33rd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the floor leader yield for a question?
Sarah may proceed.
I know you said earlier that there wasn't that this doesn't apply to medical malpractice, but was there a discussion at all about how this would increase commercial liability policies or the cost for that?
There was not extensive discussion about that in the committee vote.
Okay. And what about for auto insurance policies? There was no discussion about how this might increase those?
There was no discussion during the committee vote about that issue.
Okay. What about as far as a comparison from Maryland and what we currently have as a cap on non-economic damages to other states and how this may affect the quantity of personal injury claims that may be filed here in Maryland?
Sure. So this won't affect the quantity of claims that will be filed here in Maryland. There won't be more claims because of this. This simply allows for more accurate recovery for non-economic damages. As many of you know, Maryland is one of only 10 states that caps non-economic damages outside of the medical malpractice field. And so 40 other states have no cap whatsoever. Those 40 states have car insurance, property casualty insurance. They have market participants just as we do here. And so there's not a direct correlation between the cap and the insurance rates, because we know in other states that don't have this cap. Yep, and we're the only state in this region that have any caps whatsoever. All of our neighboring states have no caps whatsoever.
And I'm sorry, what was that as far as the comparison with other states and the rates of insurance policies, those that don't have a cap versus what has historically been here in the state?
Sure, so I don't think we have exact data on that, but we know that the states around us have no cap and have access to insurance just as we do here in Maryland.
Access to insurance, but as far as what their general liability, commercial liability policy rates are in other states without a cap versus here? Do we have that data?
So I don't think we have that data directly in front of us.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Senator. Senator from the 42nd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the question I've had, which we really didn't get a chance to discuss in the committee, is why the
It's
number...
a question for the floor leader, Senator.
Yes, I'm sorry. This is for the floor leader.
Senator, may proceed.
Why was the number $1,750,000 selected? What was the basis for that decision?
So I think that was the consensus of those who were working in the committee, that was the appropriate number. We wanted to increase the cap to reflect inflation. As you know, we've had an incredible amount of inflation over the last few years. And then we wanted to make sure that, as we discussed earlier, we had more equitable recovery for those who suffer non-economic damages. Like we said, women, African Americans tend to have lower wages, so they recover less in economic damages. So we're making up for that inequity in the non-economic damages portion.
Okay, and when the people who were worked on this in the committee decided $1,750,000, did they do any calculations at all about how much this was going to cause the average driver's car insurance premiums to go up?
Again, we don't have the ability to calculate that directly. We know that all the other states around us have no caps whatsoever, so we are maintaining caps.
So there's no information, we don't know whether our constituents' premiums are going to go up by $100 a year or $300 a year. We just don't have any information along those lines, correct?
So I'm told from the states around us, they have no discernibly higher insurance rates. They have no caps in the states around us.
And what about small businesses? Was there any calculation made about how much the insurance premiums for small businesses are going to rise as a result of this?
Well, same answer, because it's a similar question. There's no discernibly higher rates in the states around us that have no cap.
Well, insurance companies are not known for being eleemosynary institutions. So if we're going to double the cap that's available for damages in these cases, and presumably the damages will go up because we're doubling the cap, isn't it a fair assumption that insurance premiums are going to rise?
So just to be clear, by raising the cap, we are not necessarily raising the non-economic damages that are recoverable. The plaintiff still has to prove that they have those non-economic damages. Very few cases will rise to the level of $1.75 million of non-economic damages. That'll be the most severe cases.
Okay, thank you.
All right. On the bill, recognized senator from the 43rd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm trying to understand. So we have, if I could ask the
Question for the floor leader.
Question for the floor leader.
Senator may proceed.
So for civil actions, are there economic damages and there is a cap on personal injury and wrongful death?
So there are economic damages,
Right.
and then there are pain and suffering damages.
Okay.
The pain and suffering damages aren't considered economic damages, not because they're any different than economic damages, just because they are more difficult to measure in a quantifiable way. And so that's why we put a cap on it, and this bill maintains that cap.
Okay. So there's 3 buckets of damages, and we have caps on all the 3 buckets. So are there no caps?
So there are no caps on economic damages.
Okay,
there
so
are only
it can
caps
be
on
whatever.
non-economic
And so
damages.
there's no cap. I was wondering, I'm trying to understand, and so this would be for each case. Is that correct? So for each yeah, so each event or each lawsuit, the cap would be removed. Or, no, it would be increased.
The cap would be
increased.
That's right.
So, Mr. President, so we're talking about doubling it, so it's something less than $1 million and then going to 1.7 million. I'm trying to understand where the equity part, because I just want to be very clear, if we're going to use an argument that it is addressing a social equity, I want to really understand precisely, how that works. So how does doubling the amount that can be sued, therefore doubling the 40% that the attorney would receive, how does that specifically allow for women and people of color to get a fair evaluation? Is it the case that women are above it's more than 900 million, and therefore by raising it up there, or is there a pot and only so much damages can be gotten, and therefore we're doubling it so that the pie is bigger? I just really don't understand where the equity
It's a good question.
comes in. I'd like to understand that.
So there was extensive testimony about the issue of equity in the committee, and some examples were given. And it's possible that I'm not repeating the exact details right, but in principle, this is what it does. So economic damages are lost wages. And there was testimony about a woman who was maimed in an accident, and that woman didn't work. She didn't have wages. And so she didn't have economic damages because she chose not to work. That's true of a higher percentage of women than men, as you know. But she was maimed. She couldn't function the way that she previously functioned. Every day she looked herself in the mirror and she saw someone looking back at her that she no longer recognized. The way our system is built is that economic damages are the main damages, the real damages, and somehow non-economic damages are not real. Pain and suffering, it's something ephemeral. But for her, her life was forever changed. It would never be the same. But she didn't have any economic damages because she didn't have any wages. All of her damages were non-economic damages. And by having a low cap on non-economic damages, it impacts her versus someone who may be very affluent and who works. The same testimony was provided.
Well, but I'm sorry, I'm just really, and I guess I'll sit down because I don't think there is an answer. I'm trying to understand very specifically how doubling it, or not removing it. It would seem that if we're being equitable, you would just remove it. And so to simply put, and I guess I'm speaking on the bill, but to simply double it, it does not, for me, that part of the argument is not as convincing. And so so that's really all I would have to say, is that I want us to be cautious how we use this.
I think you're right. And just to be clear, we're marching towards your goal. In other words, if your belief is that equity is created by eliminating the cap, that's obviously how the bill came in. We are marching in the direction of that.
All right, Senator from the 44th District.
Just a question for the floor leader.
The floor to yield. Senator may proceed.
As I heard you speaking about equity, I'm curious in an example. Let's say if Maryland was to have an event that happened like 9/11, it affected all kinds of people, from janitors to stock traders.
That's exactly right.
Who would get more money under Maryland's system if this case were to proceed to court?
The stock traders.
Why?
Because economic damages are uncapped, and their economic damages would be higher.
Thank you.
All right, Senator from District 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the floor leader would yield for a
Will the floor to yield?
couple
Senator may proceed.
comments and questions. So, I don't know if anybody has recently gotten your auto insurance bill recently, but I know mine's gone up about 15%. It's the largest leap in 1 year. So if you haven't looked at them, I suggest you look at them. So here's another thing where we're now looking to add this fee, or this new ceiling, I should say. So my question for you, floor leader, is was there an offered amendment that was not as high as the one that's here on the floor today?
I believe there was.
And we were, in that hearing, the body was moved this level first, and if this level failed, we would then consider the other amendment that was going to be offered. Is that correct?
I think that's accurate, yes.
Do you remember what the parameters of that other amount was?
I do not exactly remember that.
It was 1.2 million with a $20,000 annual escalator. So it was going to raise it up right away, roughly $250,000, and then the escalator was going to be higher than what's in place now, correct?
That's correct.
And that one was refused, and the body, or the committee, was urged to then vote for the higher amount, which ended in a 7-4 vote. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay, thank you. So I just bring that up because one of the things that we're not seeing here, or we're not hearing about, is we've heard about the favorables. And Mr. President, on the bill, the unfavorables came in from the Maryland Chamber of Commerce, the Maryland Motor Truck Association, Maryland Employers of Civil Justice Reform, Maryland State Dental Association, Maryland Social of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgeons, whatever that word is, you all know what I'm talking about. American Property Casualty Insurance Association, Medical Mutual Liability Insurance Society of Maryland, Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, the NFIB, the National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies, the Maryland Association of Mutual Insurance Companies, the Maryland Tort Reform Association, the Maryland Hospital Association, MedChi, the Maryland College of Emergency Physicians. This is the list that were opposing this. The groups that were favorable, Maryland Association for Justice and the plaintiffs' lawyers. Look, I'm not saying that it doesn't need to go up, and there was an offered amendment that I thought was reasonable for a middle ground to start. But when I got my car insurance bill that went up 15% in 1 year, and Maryland allowed that to happen, so all our bills went up there. We've passed a bunch of fees that are going to be adding into everybody's, digging into your wallet next year, taken away. I don't know how it's worked around here, but again, insurance, they did a local appraisal of my home, and now my escrow's gone up by 30%. We're adding all these things in, and we're not, and we're talking, the talk was about pain and suffering. Pain and suffering, it has zero to do with what you make. This bill is not a fair bill, and it's going to impact all of us at the end of the day when you get your bill in the mail from your insurance through your auto insurance, which are already very high and too high in this state. And this is going to be another reason, because people are going to be allowed to sue. They're going to be allowed to go after higher amounts. There's going to be higher settlement amounts, and your insurance and my insurance is going to be affected by it. So with that, Mr. President, I appreciate the time, and I would urge everyone to consider their vote carefully.
All right, thank you, Senator. Let's hear from the minority leader, who's not yet spoken.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the floor leader would yield.
The floor to
again,
yield.
please.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you. I wasn't exactly understanding one of the reasons that you said that the cap had to go up. You mentioned inflation. But at the same time, when this law was passed in 1994, the cap was $500,000, and it's gone up every single year by $15,000 to account for inflation. Is that accurate?
Yes, although it hasn't completely accounted for inflation.
And so if it had continued to go up by, where would it be right now? Is it at the $900,000 number?
So had the 1994 number kept up with inflation, it would 1.02 is my
1.0
understanding.
Correct. That's the number I have as well too, 1.02 million. So then we've taken that number and we have increased it to 1.75 million from 1.02 million. So you've increased it more than $740,000.
That's correct.
And the justification for that, and also now we have new escalators on it, right? $30,000 a year?
20.
The new one would be 20,000.
That's correct.
Okay, so again, the justification for 1.75 rather than where we are at the 1.02
is to better compensate people for the pain and suffering that they've gone through for traumatic wrongdoing that they have experienced.
Okay, so in the committee testimony, there were, I guess, a number of people that came in and spoke about those conditions and were looking for support. Is that what happened?
So we heard testimony from attorneys about cases that they have had, clients that they have represented who have had their jury amounts reduced. And so just to be clear, if I could just take a second for the body, these caps don't go into play when the jury makes its finding. It comes in afterwards. In other words, a jury will make an independent determination based on the facts and circumstances of what happened to that victim. In one case, we had a child that was maimed by someone driving high on cocaine for a commercial outfit that should have known that he was unable to drive.
Yeah.
And when that child was maimed, the damages came down, I believe, at the policy limit, $5 million. The jury made that determination.
Right.
The jury of his peers made a determination that $5 million was the appropriate compensation for a child that was maimed by a cocaine addict driving for a commercial company that should have known and did know of that addiction. And then imagine what it's like to be the attorney that has to explain to the family. The jury of your peers decided that the correct pain and suffering number for you, for everything that you've gone through, for your family, for your child, is $5 million. And let's be clear, no amount of money will return that child to the life he knew. But it's something. It's something to help with the pain and suffering that that child and their family has experienced. But then the lawyer had to explain to that family, but Maryland has a law. Your legislators, who you've never met, made a determination in 1994, 30 years ago, unrelated to the facts and circumstances of this case, that even though the jury said you deserve $5 million in pain and suffering, we're going to cap it at $950,000. It's arbitrary.
So under the new law, the jury would still agree to $5 million and they would get 1.75.
That's
So
correct.
they have to have that same conversation.
Yep, but it's closer. We're moving in the right direction.
But it's still the conversation. I mean,
Sure.
it's still, you know, for you to make, for that point to be made that a jury awarded $5 million and this bill to not even satisfy that story still doesn't make sense. I mean, it might make sense in the case of where it happened, but you know, we have not removed the caps and we still have caps. And part of why we have the caps is what you talked about earlier, is that we do have fairly reasonable insurance rates, but they are continue to go up because at the end of the day, these will be paid for by people that have auto insurance. Is that right?
Yeah.
People that have property insurance, would that go up as well?
Would that go up?
Yes.
No, there's no evidence. None of our neighbors have caps. And there's no evidence that either people cannot get insured or that insurance rates in the states around us are higher than Maryland. There is no state on the eastern seaboard with these caps.
Why was Med-Mal not included in this?
Med-Mal was included because was not included because it's in a separate statute.
And this bill could not have included that statute to have included Med-Mal?
Well, I guess conceivably, but I think there was a notion to limit it to the particular statute in which it was found.
Okay. MedChi came in and they were in opposition of the bill even though they weren't included, right?
That's correct.
And why was that?
You would have to ask them. They are not included in the bill medical malpractice is a separate statute.
I think they were in opposition because they felt that they'd be next year. Is that potentially accurate?
You would have to ask them. I have no intention of putting in this bill next year to affect doctors in the medical field.
Okay. And then just finally, one more question. You'd mentioned that no victims came to testify. It was only attorneys that came to testify, right?
That's correct.
And just so I know, attorneys, will they benefit from this?
Plaintiff's attorneys, yes.
Yeah. And how would that, how do they, I mean, if they're coming in telling stories, but it is self-serving for plaintiff's attorneys as well too, right?
Well, so plaintiff's attorneys make a contract with their clients, and they, unlike defense attorneys, which are paid by the hour, we have defense attorneys and plaintiff's attorneys in this chamber. Defense attorneys are compensated by the hour. Plaintiff's attorneys lay out all their money up front on the possibility that they will receive a recovery on the back end. They charge nothing to the victim of the case as long as the case moves forward, and in return, at the end, there is an agreed upon number between the plaintiff's attorney and their client about what percentage of the recovery the attorney will receive.
So the higher the award, the higher the compensation plaintiff's attorneys would get?
Conceivably, if they make that arrangement with their client.
That's just the arrangement you mentioned. They agreed to a number, and you said that number wasn't a fixed fee, but you said that number was a percentage.
Traditionally, it's a percentage. That's exactly right.
So if the award goes up and you have the percentage.
If that's the arrangement, then yes, the attorney would receive higher compensation.
So again, it makes sense on why the only people that were there in favor of this bill were the trial attorneys, because they stand to gain the most from this as well.
I think what you hear from the trial attorneys is they represent clients like this every day, and they see the look on the clients' faces when the jury decision is cut down arbitrarily by a number that was decided here in the legislature. I understand that we are raising that. Maybe you have an amendment to get rid of the cap here, but it moves us closer to the equity that we are seeking on behalf of these victims.
All right. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
responses. Mr. President, I think it's very clear that we see why there was just one specific group that was there testifying in favor of the bill. Obviously, they're the ones that will benefit the most from raising this cap. Again, I saw that there was 11 plaintiff attorneys that were there. Nobody else was in favor of the bill. Victims were not there, just the plaintiff attorneys that were coming, a whole list of opposition. Again, I just wouldn't think that this is the right policy to go forward. I don't think it solves the issue that the floor leader was talking about, a $5 million settlement, and you're still having that same conversation. You're only getting a $1.7 million award. It just seems like this has gone up way too dramatically.
Thank you, Senator. All right, Senator from the 26th District.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Floor leader yield.
The floor to yield.
Brief question.
Senator may proceed.
Mr. President, when I approach an issue like this, I try not to see the hospitals or the insurance companies. I try to put a face to it. I try to make it human. And I did. I saw one. Her name's Tiffany. She was bright, had a lot of promise in front of her, but an accident took it all away. Her mom wheels her in a wheelchair down to the front of the church every Sunday, and I think this mom will never send her child to college. She'll never be able to enjoy some of the things in life. However, she will be taking care of her for the rest of her life. I try to see a human face. And I think we all can see human faces of people to whom something like this has occurred. And if we could, we would do everything that we can so that we would make it easier on the parents. Yes, I know hospitals will suffer, so we say, and insurance companies, so we say. But for me, it's that parent who will not be receiving much of anything, but will have to take care of a child. And so my question, I guess, is very simple for you. Do you agree?
100%.
All right. On the bill, third reading, Chair recognizes the senator from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Floor Leader. Will you yield for a question, please?
Senator may proceed.
Isn't it true that these trial lawyers can charge up to 40% of the settlement?
So trial lawyers make arrangements with their clients as to what percentage or flat fee they will receive. It's a private agreement between the attorney and the plaintiff.
But legally, can they do 40?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Legally, can they charge as much as 40% of the settlement?
Sure, they can.
Okay, so with the cap right now, the current rate, then 40% would be $400,000 in the pocket of the trial lawyer. Under the new rate, if I do my math, it would be now $800,000 in the trial lawyer's pocket. And if we're really discussing who is making out, it sounds like the pockets of the victims are not the ones that are being taken care of, and therefore I'll be writing red on Senate Bill 538. Thank you.
All right, on the bill, third reading, final passage. Any further discussion? Mr. Chair recognizes the senator from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our auto insurance rates in Maryland are some of the highest in the country, and we hear from the Maryland Auto Insurance constantly about how high the rates are, and we have to subsidize rates in our lower income communities. If you pass this bill, those rates are going to increase even more. We have seen some of the highest awards in Maryland compared to the rest of the country. We have real issues in Maryland with awards on liability. And I just say to you, if we pass this bill, be prepared. As one of our senators said, auto insurance rates are already increasing, and this is going to create another significant increase. So just be prepared. You're voting to increase your constituents' auto insurance.
All right, question, third reading, final passage. Senator from District 9, followed by the senator from Vice Chair of the committee.
Would the floor leader yield for a question?
Floor to yield.
Happy to.
Thank you. I'm just really trying to understand the insurance angle because, and I was trying to figure out if I could get ChatGPT to give me an honest answer.
We actually have some answers for you. So go ahead, ask your question, but we've got some additional data.
So how does the insurance rates from Maryland compare to Virginia?
So here's the states I can provide information on that we have received. Our neighbor Delaware, some of us go to Delaware for part of the summer, has no caps. No caps whatsoever. They don't have a 1.75 million cap, they have zero cap. And so you can get up to the policy limit. Delaware has higher insurance rates than Maryland. Our neighbor Pennsylvania, some of you have districts that border Pennsylvania, no caps. Not a $1.75 million caps, no cap whatsoever. Pennsylvania has higher insurance rates than Maryland. New Jersey, no caps. New Jersey, higher insurance rates than Maryland. And so this is not going to raise our caps. By keeping the cap at 1.75 million, this is not going to explode our insurance rate vis-a-vis our neighbors.
I still don't get it. That doesn't sound right. So just to be clear, so they don't have caps, and their rates are higher. Is that what you just said?
That's correct.
Yes, I'm sorry. We did this a little bit backwards. We're running without the folder here. I apologize. Okay. So I'm being told that the states I indicated have higher rates have lower rates. I apologize.
I was hoping you would
yes,
say.
I said
Thank
this
you very
backwards. They have lower rates and no caps.
Because that's ChatGPT was telling me that Virginia had lower rates and there was no cap.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Okay, so I think we have high rates, which is a problem, but it doesn't seem linked to this part of having caps or not having caps.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, let's, for senators who have not yet spoken, Senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the floor leader yield? My question is on something, thank you. My question is on something that I haven't heard anyone else ask about, and it comes from the fiscal note. It talks about the Transportation Trust Fund.
Sure.
And it says that expenditures may increase significantly if the Maryland Transit Administration, the MTA, has to pay higher non-economic damages or insurance premiums under the bill. And then it also references, should the bill result in a noticeable increase in litigation and time spent on civil cases in the circuit court, the bill may have an operational impact on the judiciary. I wonder if you could speak to those two items.
Thank you. Important question. MTA advised during the fiscal note this issue, but that's when when the bill came in with taking off the cap completely. So you'll see in the fiscal note that they indicate they have about 12 cases over the last 8 years at above 400,000. So that's not very many. So assume that, let's say, about half of those 6 cases were above the 950,000 amount. So I think we did the math on that. So that would average out to about $350,000 per year to MTA. So not a substantial increase.
And that was the number of cases per year or in total, just clarifying?
So there, in the last 8 years, there were 12 cases where the damages...
Not per year.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Senator.
All right, on the bill, any senators who have not yet spoken wish to speak? If not, Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry, just a couple more questions for the floor leader.
floor
You just talked about earlier about the auto policy claims, but what about the commercial liability claims? Was there any data as far as in comparison to other states about this impacting businesses and what they have to pay for commercial liability claims? Because I think we're also concerned not just for our individual residents and what they have to pay for our auto insurance, but also for our individual businesses and what they have to pay for commercial liability claims, commercial liability policies.
So we're being told that similarly to auto, like the states around us with no caps have no higher commercial liability rates.
Okay. No higher auto, like commercial or commercial liability?
Commercial liability.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does Virginia have a cap on med-mal claims, if you know? I know you said another one's around, but what about med-mal in neighboring states?
Virginia does have a med-mal cap.
Oh, okay. And what about data as to medical malpractice policies and whether or not the policy rates on those go up in states that that don't have a cap?
Because this bill does not deal with medical malpractice, we didn't seek or receive any data.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
All right, on the bill, third reading, final passage, Chair recognizes the senator from Carroll County.
Mr. President, I just wanted to make a note here. We've been hearing about the rates and I'm sympathetic to the aims of trying to find a way to help victims more. I stand up on this floor all the time to speak for victims. But I think it's important when we hear that the rates in other states are not as high as Maryland's and they have no cap. I did a little bit. I didn't consult ChatGPT, but I did consult Google to be sure I was right because I thought something stuck in my mind. Maryland and Virginia are both contributory negligence states. So it is true, Virginia and Maryland, that's an apples to apples. But West Virginia, South Carolina, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, when we're talking about the Eastern Seaboard, all are comparative negligence states, which means if you can recover, if you're in an accident and it's somebody else's fault, but it's partly your fault, to put it in layman's terms, it's easier to keep the recovery from being quite as high. Now, there's pros and cons to comparative and contributory negligence, which I definitely am not qualified to get into here on the floor, but it is different. So to say that it's not I don't believe it's fair to make an apples-to-apples comparison between the rates in both states, because if you're in a comparative negligence state, there's some recovery options on the insurance side that aren't available in a contributory negligence state. And some of the Eastern Seaboard states, like I said, are contributory, but most of them seem to be comparative or some form of comparative negligence. So I just think as we talk about that, we should have an apples-to-apples comparison, and I'm concerned about, I think the concern about the insurance rates is a very fair one. So thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Yes, recognizing the senator from Prince George's.
Thank you, Mr. President. Floor leader yield for a question.
Senator may proceed.
Of course. So I just don't necessarily, just be very honest, I don't deal with this too much. So I need to better understand the difference between the economic damages that I heard, but it didn't sink in for me, versus the non-economic damages. Can you help me with that?
Well, let's think about what's most important to people. Your livelihood is important to you. But more important perhaps than your livelihood is how you feel each and every day. How you feel about how you experience pain, how you experience your body. Now imagine you were in an accident. And in that accident, you couldn't work for a while. You're compensated for that time that you can't work. But for the rest of your life, you're in constant pain. Let's say you lose an arm as part of that accident. For the rest of your life, you are disfigured. Let's say as part of that accident, you lose reproductive function. For the rest of your life, you cannot participate in reproductive function. And so we've talked a little bit about here is kind of this idea that economic damages are the main damages and non-economic damages are kind of the side damages that are hard to quantify. That's not true. In the hypothetical that we're talking about, you'd get the economic damages for your lost work. But what would really impact you the rest of your life is the pain that you live with every day, the disfigurement that you live with every day, the loss of function and what that means to your family, to your marriage, to your sense of self. These non-economic damages it sounds like a technical term, but what it is, non-economic damages is for the harm that makes life worth living. And when you lose that part of yourself, you deserve compensation. Okay. And so this brings us closer to the idea that you can get full compensation for those non-economic damages.
Okay, that helps me to better understand the non-economic damages, but I also heard about the economic damages, and I want to better understand how a person who makes more money for the same situation that would occur would receive more money than a person who makes less. Can you help me better understand that,
Sure.
Particularly in this larger context of this conversation?
So economic damages measure potential earnings. And so if you're out of work for a month and you get paid more, you're the stockbroker and not the janitor, you get more for that month. But this bill deals with sometimes people who can never work again. And when you can never work again, the jury will determine your potential future earnings. And the potential future earnings of the janitor will not be the same as the stockbroker in the senator's example. And that's why this is an equity issue, because only in the non-economic damages can we show people their dignity and worth as a human being, that their pain and suffering is the same as the pain and suffering of everyone else who might experience the same, regardless of whether they're the stockbroker or the janitor.
And in keeping with that, because you gave the example as well of like reproductive function, for example. So a person who is perhaps injured in some way or something like that, but their job, has more money, may have the money to be able to recover from the reproductive function, like the money to be able to have certain surgeries and have certain things like that. But the person who has a job that doesn't pay as much, therefore wouldn't get as much money, is that the way it's set up?
It is not. So your medical costs, regardless.
Okay, let's not go medical then. Let's just go. I'm not talking about medical. I just use that because you mentioned that as an example, right? But let's not say medical then. Let's say there's some other situation which says that you then, you might lose your home or something like that because you don't have the same money as the other person does from their job. Is that the way that this works? Meaning, I don't, they've made this assumption about the amount of my lifetime earnings could be for something, which is less than the other person. But both of us, had, we're trying to get a townhome or something like that. But now I can't do that. But because I don't earn as much, I can't receive as much on the economic damages side.
That's correct. That's how economic damages work. They're a measure of...
Even for the same exact situation that occurred to the person. So we had the exact same situation, but we get different things?
Yeah, so the answer is yes. But just to be clear, the jury is doing two steps. On one side of the ledger is the economic damages.
Right.
On the other side of the ledger is the non-economic damages.
And when it comes to the non-economic damages, that's the place where every person is just treated the same way and they're treated as a whole person on the non-economic damages?
That's correct.
Okay.
But what impacts the jury's ability to treat someone as a whole person and compensate them for the full measure of their pain and their suffering and their disfigurement, and in the example we were talking about, the loss of consortium, is the caps. The caps impact the ability. So you have someone who a jury decides has $5 million worth of pain and suffering.
Right.
They lost a limb. They will never be able to walk again. And then that person will be at $950,000 under current law. Mm-hmm. You have a second person who is injured less severely, who is not similarly situated and has $950,000 worth of damage. They also get $950,000. So someone who is severely injured and has severe pain and disfigurement and other non-economic damages will have a lower recovery rate relative to someone who does not have that because of the caps. And increasing the caps gets us closer to fully compensating the victim of the wrongdoing for their pain, for their suffering, for their disfigurement.
Okay, and then the last thing, Mr. President, just what do we know, like these suits and stuff like that, they don't incorporate all of the costs associated with insurance claims, do they? I mean, do we know? Like, a lot of the cost of our insurance and stuff like that is driven by things that I would imagine don't rise to this.
So when the jury makes a decision as to how someone should be compensated, both on the economic damages side and on the non-economic damages side, they are not informed as to what that person's insurance coverage is or what the defendant's insurance coverage is. The jury is completely blind as to the insurance coverage. They make a decision independent of the insurance policy.
Right, but I was asking actually a little bit of a different question. You may or may not know the answer to this, but so the amount of the insurance premium that is associated with lawsuits such as this versus the amount of the insurance premium that is associated with things that don't go to court cases, stuff like that, that are adjusted and claimed, that is a large part of the cost for, a significant portion of our cost for insurance. Do you know sort of like what those two things are? In other words, I'm trying to also better understand the overall impact of our cost that is associated with this part of the insurance space.
Well, I'll defer. We have insurance experts in this chamber, and I'll defer to them. But quite clearly, the premium that you pay for insurance is made up of a number of things. Most particularly is your individual risk and your individual history and the risk that you pose to claims on the policy. the idea that litigation around you is going to substantially increase the cost of insurance is false. I am sure that statewide liability impacts insurance, as it does in every state, and of course 40 states have no cap whatsoever. But I imagine as a whole, your particularized risk is the primary driver of your insurance costs, not the caps or the claims in our statutory scheme.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So, Mr. President, having spent some time in this chamber looking at insurance and the overall cost of insurance, it is my understanding that the total cost of lawsuits is not the lion's share of what goes into the total cost of our insurance. What I've also just heard in here is that there is an equity issue that deals with these non-economic damages that I really wasn't all that familiar with, and that this is a matter of fairness. And so I'm going to be supporting the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the bill, third reader, final passage, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded it?
Mr. President.
Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? Senator has 2 minutes to explain
I'd
his
like
vote.
to explain my vote. Some of you may or may not remember, in 2007, I was hit by a
Excuse
car.
me, Senator, before you go, Madam Secretary, if we could please ring the bells. Senator may proceed. Sorry,
In
please.
2007, I was hit by a car in Brussels, Belgium, and I came back to the 2008 session. I had to be in a wheelchair the whole session. And then for the rest of that 6-8 months after that, I was using a walker. Now, I've recovered. I'm fine. But I could have ended up in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And at that time, I made a relatively good living. And so the economic damages would have been related to how I might not have been able to perform the work that I do in the investment business. Similar person who, as my colleagues say, are a janitor or a food service worker or a house cleaner. Same thing happened to them. Their economic damages would have been a fraction of what mine would have been. That's what this issue is about. I believe that we're all equal in the sight of God. This bill is saying that we're all equal when our body is damaged. That's why they call it personal injury. It's about injury to the person. And all people are equal and should be treated more equally than they are now, and that's why I'm voting for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any further senators wish to explain their votes? Recognizing the senator from the 42nd District has 2 minutes to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was struck by the difference in the testimony of the chair of the Finance Committee on the one hand and the floor leader on the other. The chair of the Finance Committee, who has a lot of experience in insurance, said that Maryland already has high insurance premiums, and in her view, this bill would cause the premiums to go up, perhaps significantly. The floor leader says that in our neighboring states, which have no caps, that the insurance premiums are lower than in Maryland. That sounds counterintuitive to me. It would seem to me that if there are no caps at all, and settlements are higher, and judgments are higher, that the premiums are going to go up. So I took a look, and I found the testimony of the American Property Insurance Casualty Insurance Association, which has 67% of Maryland's market. And here's what they said. Studies document that non-economic damages are linked to lower insurance premiums. For example, using state-specific data, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners found that premium rates were lower in states that regulated the amount of non-economic damages. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any further senators who wish to explain their vote? Recognize the senator from the 43rd District has 2 minutes to explain their vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. The data, racial bias and sexual bias in damages occurs when there are no caps. They occur. So, in other words, if you look in a no cap situation, black bodies are valued less, and so even with no caps, same injury, same situation, a black person and a white person are going to get different amounts. The same with women as well. So for me, the argument that this is addressing bias or allowing for there to be equity is not found in the law journals where they discuss no caps and impacts of race bias and sex bias, that the bias is still there, the gaps in what people are assigned based on their race and sex, there's still a grand disparity. This bill won't address that, so that's my no vote.
All right, thank you, Senator. Any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 27 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 538, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 969, Senator Elfreth, Stream and Watershed Restoration, Stream Restoration Contractor, Licensing Projects, and Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays Restoration and Funding, Whole Watershed Act.
Senate Bill 969 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 969, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1056, Senator Kramer, Cigarettes and Other Tobacco Products, Electric Smoking Devices Revisions, Tobacco Retail Modernization Act of 2024.
Senate Bill 1056 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1056, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Senators, crossover is over. The desk is clear. Recognize the senator from the 34th district.
Yep. On that last calendar, a long time ago, Senate Bill 123, I need to change my vote from green to red. Shame on me for texting, but and I will get a form and fill it out. Thank you.
Excellent. Great. The form is going to be right there. Are there any objections? No objections, so ordered. Yes, Senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Senate Bill 1056, the last one, could I be recorded in the red instead of the green? Thank you.
Red in the green, and I'm sorry, on the last bill, 1053. Is that correct? Yes, 1056. We have the form. It is coming. All right, any objections? Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, I think that does it. Does that do it for any other votes, any issues? If not, do we have any announcements? Tomorrow we are going to start at 11. We don't have too much of a session, but we're going to be a little bit later. And don't believe it, we will, well, I don't know what the Minority Caucus may be doing, but I think let's see, hear from the Minority Whip.
It's not going to be at 8:30. Mr. President, our caucus will convene at 10 a.m.
10 a.m., all right. Chair of the Democratic Caucus.
Oh, Mr. President.
I'll yield to the Minority Whip.
Bring your laptop, please, members of the Republican Caucus. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Oh, interesting. Yes. Chair of the Democratic Caucus.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senators, please bring your laptop only to the floor because we're not having caucus tomorrow.
All right. Excellent. All right. Any further announcements before we adjourn this evening? If not, Senator from the 45th, do you want to make a motion? We could do it tomorrow if you're up to you. All right, recognize the senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just colleagues, every day that we get to stand on this earth and share this time with each other is a gift. And today we lost a colleague, a friend by the name of Jonathan Dean. Many of them affectionately knew him as JD. He was one of the building service workers that worked in our respective buildings, just making sure that we're safe, just making sure that it's clean from that standpoint. So I just say if we can adjourn in his honor. He had served in this building as a worker, an employee for 8+ years, as a contractor before that. And Mr. President, thank you for this opportunity just to make sure that we recognize everybody plays a vital role in making sure that this operation run, and JD played equally as a vital role. Thank you, Mr. President.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. If there's no objection, we will adjourn in his honor and make sure that his family gets a copy of the message. All right, any further announcements before we adjourn? If not, let's do a quorum call.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk We'll take the call. With 45 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until Tuesday, March 19th at 11 a.m., adjourning tonight in the memory of Jonathan Dean, employee of DGS.
All right, without objection, so ordered. Thank you all. Have a safe night.